All right, hey, welcome back. My name is Rich Kutchman with Strategic Self-Reliance and Defense, and today I'm going to continue and actually complete the videos on primary assessment. All right, we're talking about the primary assessment process in wilderness first aid or EMT courses. Right, we use mnemonic ABCDE for the primary assessment. Remember, the primary assessment is to quickly gauge life-threatening injuries and intervene to stop the patient from dying. Right, that's really what we're talking about here. It's a down and dirty assessment. It's quick and easy. Um, Sometimes you never get beyond the primary assessment because things happen, right? If you have to do CPR in the primary assessment, you're doing compressions, you're breathing for somebody, rescue breathing. You might not ever move beyond, A and B. Okay? But again, the primary assessment mnemonic is A, B, C, D, E: airway, breathing, circulation, disability or deficit, and E, which is environment exposure. And that's today's topic. Okay, these are down and dirty. These are short videos. And our next, we're going to continue with the secondary assessment, which is a little bit more involved. All right, but the environment or the exposure part of the mnemonic is simply think about what's going on around you, right? If there is a condition that creates a burden to your care or risks the victim, you need to move that patient. Now you don't typically move a patient unless you have to, right? A trauma victim should not be moved by non-professionals unless absolutely necessary. So think about the person. The victim is a motorcycle accident at night over the crest of a hill on the roadway. It's dark, and if the patient's laying in the roadway, there's a good likelihood that they're going to get hit by a next car that comes over that hill. So, guess what? You need to move them, right? If you don't move them, is there a risk to moving them? Of course there is. They could have a spinal cord injury. So you do it smart, right? You use spinal precautions, which we talked about in our last video, and you move them out of the roadway so there's not a threat to them. Think about somebody that's suffering from injuries and it's 10 degrees out. You got to get them out of that environment. It's too cold. They're going to hypothermia. Hypothermia causes you to bleed more. You don't clot well, right? So you got to get them warm. So the environment or the exposure uh, part of this mnemonic is simply thinking about what's going on in the environment around you and getting them out of that dangerous situation, right? Or potentially dangerous situation. Move them to a protected area. So again, if they're in the middle of the road, it's move them off the road to the shoulder. Okay? If they're in a very cold environment, it's getting them into a warm environment. Maybe getting them into a tent or a shelter of some sort so that they're not continuing to get hypothermic. If it's got lightning going off everywhere, thunder and lightning, you might want to get them out of that environment, right? It's whatever the case may be. You want to a river that's rising rapidly, get them away from the riverside, the side of the riverbed, the side of the river, right? You get them out of there so that they are not in danger anymore. They're not in peril. So really, the key is just looking around, what's going on around you. If it's a dangerous or potentially dangerous environment, get them out of that environment, get them warm, dry, into a safe area, and then continuing to treat them. Right? And after E, we would move into our secondary assessment. And we're going to get that in the next video. Um, Remember, if you are going to move somebody, again, moving somebody in a trauma situation is not your primary goal. If you can, if they're safe where they are, do not move them. Let the professionals, let 911 EMTs move that patient. Okay? Because sometimes what you do can cause more harm than good. Right? If you don't know what you're doing, and they have a spinal cord injury, and you move them wrong, you could cause them to become a quadriplegic for the rest of their life. Right? Um, so don't move them unless you have to. If you have to, because of a dangerous environment, then you move them. You move them safely. Right? Keep them in spinal precautions. Keep their C-spine in alignment. You're going to need more than one person typically. But guess what? If you're the only person and they're trapped in the car that's burning, you got to move them. Right? It might not be pretty, but you got to move them because if you don't, they're going to die in a car fire. So that's really environment in a nutshell. It's really pretty straightforward. Get them out of a dangerous or potentially dangerous environment. Move them to a safe area. If it's cold, get them warm. If it's in a in the middle of the road, get them to the shoulder. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's E, environment or exposure. Uh, that concludes the primary assessment part of again wilderness first aid or emergency medical technician. And in the next series of videos, we're going to cover secondary assessment. All right. Again, thanks for watching. My name is Rich Kuchman with Strategic Self-Reliance and Defense. And I hope to see you in class.